Welcome to the Bethlehem Baptist Church, a Christ-centered multicultural church where our mission is to love God and serve people. We're delighted you've joined us this evening with a word from the pastor's heart. We're blessed to have Joel Johnson, the Executive Director of Montgomery County Housing Authority. But before we begin this conversation, let us have a word of prayer. Gracious and glorious God, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to engage in this conversation. Bless, O God, the time that we have now. In the wonderful, mighty name of Jesus Christ do we pray. Amen. Joel, I'm so glad you have joined us this evening. It's been a blessing to be part of the board that you are now leading as the Executive Director of the Housing Authority. How long have you been with the Housing Authority?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's always wonderful to be with you and be in your wonderful church here, Pastor Quann. So to answer your question, I have been with the Housing Authority coming up on 18 years, actually. Later this month, it'll be 18 years. So, and obviously you've been a part of the board for much longer than that. So I've had the pleasure of working with you and so many wonderful board members throughout that time.
So what challenges do you see now that Housing Authority is facing?
So there's sort of constantly challenges. Every day seems to bring something new, but as you know, Pastor, we are technically a contractor with the federal government, so the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development provides the vast majority of our funds. So the changes that come out of Washington every year relative to the federal budget have a significant impact on the Housing Authority. So that's something we constantly keep a very close eye on. To see what sort of resources we might have to provide the services that we do for about the 3,000 low-income households that we house every year.
So tell me about the voucher program.
Very good. So one of the two primary programs, as you know on the board, we provide housing in two formats. One is the public housing program, which are units that we own and operate, and the other is the Housing Choice Voucher Program, which provides rental subsidies to private landlords on behalf of the low-income tenants that participate with us. So through our voucher program, we have about 2,400 low-income households in the voucher program, and they live in about 55 of the 62 municipalities across Montgomery County. So places as far apart from Abington and East Greenville and Upper Moreland and Pottstown and many places in between. So it's a great opportunity for the folks that participate in that program through the Housing Authority to live in the privately owned rental market and participate in communities through that program.
How many people do you have on the vouchers waiting list?
It's an excellent question. And it's kind of a complicated answer. There's about 1,000 households on our voucher waiting list. We just accepted applications to the voucher program in November, this past November, about 6 months ago or so, for the first time in 5 years, unfortunately. So for a 5-year span of time, folks were not able to apply to the voucher program because we didn't have enough resources to serve all of the folks. So in November, when we accepted applications, we did so online for a period of about a week, and we received about 7,500 applications, which is obviously an overwhelming number. And the current state of the practice across the housing authority industry nationally is to perform a lottery on all of those applicants and then place 1,000 onto the waiting list. So 7,500 applied and 1,000 were selected through a lottery and placed on our waiting list. So we have 1,000 folks, 1,000 households on our waiting list currently, but that number is a little distorted because of this lottery process that we unfortunately have to go through. Likely, we'll be serving those 1,000 households through the voucher program over the next probably 3 or 4 years. And how that works, so again, we have about 2,400 that are under lease today. And the only time we actually offer a voucher to someone on the waiting list is when someone leaves, one of those 2,400 leave the voucher program. And they do so through various means, whether they move to a different jurisdiction or they sometimes they pass away. Sometimes they no longer qualify economically. They sort of earn too much money, which is a good thing. They graduate from being eligible for the program. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that people leave the program. It averages about 10 per month. So that's the number that we can offer then to the waiting list. About 10 vouchers per month. So that 1,000 on our waiting list will probably last us 3 or 4 or 5 years. So unfortunately, folks can't apply to the voucher program now, but again, we hope it to open up in probably, as I said, 4 or 5 years.
So tell me about the other program in terms of the number of units you have.
So the other side of our shop is the public housing program. So those are units that the housing authority owns and operates, and technically the residents there sign leases with us, and we're the landlord. So we have about 550 units across Montgomery County in 5 locations, and they take various forms of high-rise buildings to which are mostly designed for senior populations and disabled populations, and those are typically are smaller units, so studios and 1-bedrooms. And then we have a townhouse type of format, which are usually larger units, meaning they have 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, and those are typically populated by families. All of those formats, have different sort of physical challenges, whether it's elevators or boilers or roofs or all of those things that structures need. So we're constantly looking for additional resources, financial opportunities to invest in our public housing portfolio, which we've done successfully with the board's leadership over the years. Typically, we have probably $3 to $4 or $5 million of construction going on at any one time across our portfolio, whether it's roofs or boilers or elevator systems, all across the county.
Our chairman, Jerry Nugent, has done a tremendous job in terms of keeping the board abreast as all the things that take place. And at our recent meeting, we just commended you for your excellent leadership with one of the situations that occurred with one of our homes. Can you say a word about that?
Certainly. So as the pastor mentioned, and pastor is very humble, of course, and he serves as the vice chair of the Housing Authority Board, and he referenced Jerry Nugent, who's the chair of our board, and the relationship between the executive office of the Housing Authority and the board is so strong, and that really what I think helps create such strong services that we provide for our residents. The pastor is referring to a situation we had at one of our high-rise towers in Conshohocken, known as Lee Towers. We were in the process of investing about $1.3 million to completely replace the elevator systems at Lee Towers. Again, 7-story building right in downtown Conshohocken, serves seniors and disabled populations. And unfortunately, we had intentionally taken one of the 2 elevators out of service to replace it completely, the pulley systems and the cabs and the buttons, the electronics, everything. And so we had one of the elevators operational, the other one operational to serve the building. And unfortunately, we had a fire in some of the electrical components of the operating elevator, which knocked out that operating elevator. So now we have no operational elevators that are operating in Lee Towers, and we've had to relocate folks out of that building because there's no functioning elevators. And we're housing those folks in a hotel here in the county. So we've sped up the process to complete the complete renovation that we had started on the first elevator, and we hope to have that completed next month, and then we'll be able to have folks move back in. But unfortunately, it was a sort of unfortunate timing with this unfortunate accident that happened in the functioning elevator. And unfortunately, those things happen from time to time, and anytime you're doing sort of construction and property investment and construction, unfortunately.
You're very humble, but you have worked almost 24/7 making sure that those individuals are cared for and that their needs are met. And that's incredible. And I, again, thank you on behalf of the board, and thank you on behalf of those families that you have made your heart open to them. When we talk about this administration in terms of HUD, have we received any cuts in terms of our overall funding?
So thank you for the kind remarks. I'm part of a great team. We have a tremendous staff who's been super helpful and responsive to this issue at Lee Towers. But as to your question about the budget, so it seems perhaps counterintuitive, but the federal budget is a sort of a complicated process. But the current federal fiscal year that we're in is 2025, and that budget technically ends at the end of September. And then the federal fiscal year 26 starts in October of this October coming up. And actually our funding is fairly stable through September. We don't know what's going to happen beyond September. We do have fairly healthy reserves and things that we can hopefully withstand any possible future cuts, but it remains to be seen what happens. The House and Senate are in the process of negotiating their budget for federal fiscal year 26, which again starts in October. So we'll have to, wait and see what happens there. We're part of many national, basically trade organizations who advocate in Washington on our behalf. So we're keeping a close eye on what happens with the federal budget. Cautiously optimistic, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that things aren't going to be too draconian if there are cuts, but it remains to be seen at this point.
How have you been supported by the county?
So Montgomery County has been a tremendous partner. Over the years, Montgomery County has provided literally millions and millions of dollars to the Housing Authority through grants and other programs to invest into our public housing portfolio. Again, whether it's roofs in one place or boilers at another or elevator systems in a different building. So, currently we probably have grant agreements with the county that total more than $6 million, again, of county dollars to invest in our public housing portfolio. Additionally, we have strong partnerships with many of the county departments, whether it's the Department of Housing and Community Development at Montgomery County, the Office of Children and Youth, the Office of Aging and Adult Services. All of these various county departments we enter into partnerships with to support certain programs that the Housing Authority runs, mostly under the umbrella of our voucher program. And these vouchers are targeted for specific populations. For example, one of the sort of boutique voucher programs that I'm referencing is known as the Foster Youth Initiative, which targets youth aging out of the county's foster care system who may not have housing opportunities. So we have now 25 vouchers that are targeted specifically for that population, and we receive referrals from Montgomery County's Office of Children and Youth for those people that are then referred to us, and we issue them a voucher, and they can move into a voucher supported unit somewhere in Montgomery County. So it's obviously a pretty powerful program to support young folks who might be 18, 19, 20 years old who have no family and have just aged out of the foster care system. So providing this type of housing resource is a real powerful tool to help hopefully provide some stability for them in their life.
Homelessness is really huge in Montgomery County, and certainly appreciate the work, and unfortunately we're limited in terms of pardon me, how many opportunities we have. But when we talk about that, Your Way Home, what about Your Way Home?
So Your Way Home is Montgomery County's homelessness response system, and I'm proud that the Housing Authority has partnered with Your Way Home to provide housing and resources in the form of vouchers from the Housing Authority, to support the Your Way Home program. So right now there's just over 200 vouchers that are targeted within our voucher portfolio. So again, we receive referrals from Montgomery County, from the county's Your Way Home program. Folks come to us, and then we issue them a voucher, and then they're able to move into a rental unit somewhere in Montgomery County. So, I think I would argue that the Housing Authority has done a strong effort to try to be a strong partner to try to address the homelessness issue. Obviously, there's still work to be done, but I think we've certainly played a significant role when trying to help stabilize and provide housing for folks that were formerly experiencing homelessness.
You indicated that you have been with the Housing Authority 18 years. Have things gotten any better when you started, or are they still increasing in terms of challenges?
I'd say there's never a shortage of challenges. I think in general, funding is always a concern. I think if you looked over the time I've been with the agency, obviously our total budgets have grown, and we've invested tens of millions of dollars in our portfolio strategically, such as redeveloping North Hills and Crest Manor over the last couple of years in Abington, Upper Dublin Township. And it's been something we've been proud to do. And in general, I think that the challenges continue, and I guess it remains to be seen what comes with future federal budgets. Obviously, there's some concern with the current federal administration as to see, all this conversation around, cutbacks with DOGE and various federal funding. So we'll have to see what happens. But in general, the challenges continue, and that's why we, get up every day and try to tackle these challenges to continue to serve the thousands of folks that we serve every day.
What do you do with all of the challenges you have? How do you kind of keep yourself focused and healthy with all the awesome responsibilities you have?
So I think I've become maybe an expert or something, or someone who's experienced with compartmentalizing. So I try to leave work at work when I leave the office and spend time with my family at home, and not get too caught up in what happens every day when I'm home. And I decompress and really try to exercise regularly and get plenty of sleep and hydrate and things like that to try to stay sharp. I'm fortunate that I have a real strong supportive family in many ways, and they sort of value the work that the Housing Authority is involved in and are supportive as well. So I think there's those kinds of things. And I just try to, as I said, compartmentalize and try to recognize that we can't solve every problem every day. But when I'm out of the office, I try to make sure I'm not being distracted by what's happening in the office or across the agency.
I think one of the things that has really been so inspiring to me is part of ministry with the Housing Authority. We house homeless families here. Been doing that for a number of years during the month of October, along with other congregations in our community as part of Family Promise. Mm-hmm. And again, based on scripture, when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was homeless, you gave me some place to live. And so that's what we do. Our mission is to love God and serve people. And in my view, the Housing Authority opportunity is just an extension of ministry. And I certainly appreciate the work that you do and the lives that you have blessed, because not to have a place that you can live in and call home is unbelievable. And so the fact that you see so many people living in the streets, particularly in Norristown, and the availability of homes and the awesome price of homes as well. And then I've seen also some wonderful places that have been refurbished, some beautiful facilities where people are living. Tell us about those facilities that you have rehabbed and built some beautiful homes there as well.
So what Patrick Quann's referring to, I believe, is two sites that are part of the Housing Authority's portfolio: North Hills Manor in Upper Dublin Township and Crest Manor in Abington Township. Both of these are sort of townhouse style family communities with 3 and 4 bedrooms, and they were built in the 1950s and 60s. So over time, of course, the properties, some of the systems and things became antiquated. So believe it or not, about 10 years ago, 2014, if you can believe it's that long ago, Pastor Quann, we started the effort under the leadership of Governor Shapiro when he was the chair of the county commissioners, Montgomery County Commissioners. He was enormously supportive in that effort for North Hills and Crest Manor. So in conjunction with a private affordable housing developer, the Housing Authority invested over $40 million between the two properties to completely rebuild those sites. So we were proud to partner with Abington Township at Crest Manor. Abington, the township, was a super supportive partner in this and invested $1 million of their resources into the redevelopment of Crest Manor. And we expanded the unit count at Crest Manor. It was 40 units, and now we ended up with 46. We created some green space, and we took some of the units, removed them from the floodplain. There's a small floodplain area over in that area, in that neighborhood. So now the properties are, more sustainable from an environmental perspective, and completely rebuilt. So it's really been a satisfying effort there in Abington, and then in Upper Dublin. We completely rebuilt 50 units there. Again, larger bedrooms, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms in some cases, and built in all kinds of new accessibility features for folks with various disabilities, whether it's physical disabilities or hearing and visual impairments. So really, an amazing array of services that are provided there, both at Crest Manor and North Hills. And Upper Dublin Township was enormously supportive of our efforts there at North Hills. So, as I said, over $40 million of investment there, and rebuilt to public housing communities in very strong academic school districts and high value neighborhoods and communities. So we're very pleased with that effort. And as I said, Governor Shapiro, in his previous role as the chair of the county commissioners, was a true champion, and it would not have happened without his involvement when he was with the county commissioners at the time.
Well, the governor has always been very focused on helping people in every aspect of life. And fortunately, the following commissioners have also been very supportive. And can you also share, I look back and how one is appointed to the board. Can you share with those who are watching how one is appointed to the board?
Certainly. So, technically, housing authorities are kind of strange entities. We're created under state law. We operate at the local level, in our case being all of Montgomery County, and again with these federal contracts, so mostly federal resources. So we're not actually a county department like many of the county departments that folks might think of, Office of Children and Youth and Aging and Adult Services. Those are actually county departments. So the Housing Authority is technically an independent authority, but the legal and technical connection we have with Montgomery County is that the Montgomery County Commissioners appoint our 5-member board of directors, including Pastor Quann and our chairman, Jerry Nugent, as we described, as well as Pastor Douglas, who from Antioch Baptist Church is a member of our board, and Carolyn Steinhofer, who lives in Bridgeport, is a member of our board. So all of our board members are appointed by the county commissioners. So that's our technical connection we have with Montgomery County. And technically, the only requirement to be a member of the board is being an adult and a resident of Montgomery County. So that's how our board gets seated, if you will. And you're absolutely right, Pastor Quann. The county commissioners over the years have always been, regardless of of party or philosophy, all of the commissioners have always been very supportive of the Housing Authority, and we're very much fortunate from that perspective.
And we've gotten a lot of support also for Congresswoman Madeline Dean, as well as others. But it's something that is needed, and we appreciate all the support that we have received, and more support is still needed, particularly when we don't know what's going to happen with the new budget after September. But again, your leadership is just phenomenal, and you serve with passion and enthusiasm, and we mentioned at the board, you're like a pastor, pastoring people, being there, available to help people, particularly during these difficult times. What challenges do you see still facing the Housing Authority?
Yeah, I think the budget is always a concern. And to your point about Representative Dean, she's been a tremendous champion, actually all the way back to her days as a Abington Township Commissioner. Her state rep district included North Hills and Crest Manor. So when we were starting those efforts, way back then when she was a Abington Township Commissioner, she was supportive, and then she moved into her role in Harrisburg as a state rep for that area, again, tremendously supportive. And then as she moved into the U.S. House as a U.S. representative, she has been at multiple of our properties and has toured Lee Towers and Conshohocken, a property we were talking about earlier, and her office secured multi-million-dollar grants separate from the federal funding that we typically receive by a formula basis. Representative Dean has been a tremendous champion for affordable housing, and we are underway with a separate project at Lee Towers and Conshohocken to replace all of the windows throughout the building, again, 7-story high-rise. So that's a $5.6 million investment, and a huge chunk, $3 million, came directly from Representative Dean. So she's been a tremendous champion. And to your question about future challenges, funding is always a challenge. There's never enough. And to put that in sort of context, there are about 1.2 million public housing units across the country. So all of the housing authorities across the country, there's about 1.2 million public housing units, and again, about 550 or so here in Montgomery County. And the national backlog of capital improvements that need to happen on those 1.2 million units is approaching 90 billion with a B of things that need to happen: roofs, boilers, elevator systems, fire alarm systems, all kinds of physical improvements that need to happen. And unfortunately, we're not immune. We have capital needs backlogs that we need to address, that we are in the process of addressing. But constantly, there's a constant need for resources to make sure those buildings can remain part of the affordable housing landscape. So we're always trying to leverage additional resources, whether it's from the county or the state or the feds or foundations, all of which we've tapped over the years, and constantly working in both Washington and Harrisburg through advocates and partners to try to increase funding through new avenues. And again, to our point about Governor Shapiro, he's been expanding housing opportunities at the state level, which we're also taking advantage of. So, to your question, funding is a sort of constant source of a challenge.
One of the remarkable things that we observed about you is how you have so much compassion for those who are underserved. And there was a gentleman staying on the property, and your heart was there for him. He was homeless, and what did he do?
So, as Pastor Quann's alluding to, we had a gentleman who's experiencing homelessness who was literally camping out, if you will, living on the Housing Authority's property in Norristown, at our office in downtown Norristown. There was a sort of flower beds, and he had spent literally months there. And some people say, oh, why don't you just have him arrested and have him removed? And nationally, the data is very clear that exposing the people who are experiencing homelessness to the law enforcement system doesn't help them, because then they have this criminal record, whether it's for trespassing or whatever. That doesn't usually result in anything positive in their lives. And as a practical matter, if they get arrested, they'll probably be released later that day or the next day and likely come back to the same position. So we engaged with the Your Way Home system and many other nonprofit partners to try to engage him to get him services. He refused services for months and months and months and months until we finally accepted them and moved off of our property into a temporary housing situation. So we made some physical changes there at our property. We put some fencing up to prohibit him or anyone else from doing what he did for months. And unfortunately, I've seen him around downtown Norristown and other places. And it's just sort of difficult. I think he's had a number of physical and behavioral health challenges throughout his life, and I'm not sure what resources he's taking advantage of now, but unfortunately, as I said, I've seen him around in other parts of town over the last month or two. And it just sort of speaks to this sort of constant, as we discussed earlier, the homelessness challenge. And I think the latest information from Montgomery County indicates there's probably 200 to 300 folks experiencing homelessness across Montgomery County, which is just so upsetting, and another reason to sort of get up and try to do do the work that we do every day to try to provide housing opportunities for folks.
Well, again, your leadership and your heart was really at the heart of what took place, because you knew that if he got arrested, that would also create additional problems for him. And so you were very patient and caring, and hopefully people see that in your leadership, that you're always concerned about the well-being of another individual, regardless of who they are. And to me, that speaks volumes about who you are as a man and your own desire to help people. And we really appreciate, honestly, the leadership that you have provided, and it's a 24/7 job. And you're there doing it and having a heart for people, and it's a blessing to have you in our community serving individuals who are in need of housing, and the homeless population that's growing on a daily basis, and all the challenges that we face with even this administration not knowing exactly where cuts may come, So again, what would you want to say to those who are watching this evening about how we can help in some way with those who are in need of housing?
Well, thank you for the kind remarks, and I would just say that, part of my orientation to the work is I just think of myself in their shoes. There, but for the grace of God go I, right? So I just try to, lead our organization in such a way that, whether it's customer service training for our staff, I want to make sure people are being treated with respect and dignity, because that's what everyone deserves. So, it's a pleasure and honor to have the, responsibility to do so. And to your question about, how can folks who might be watching this become engaged, think about the fact that, there's hundreds of people in Montgomery County and hundreds of thousands of people across the country, unfortunately, who are experiencing homelessness. And there's probably 5x or 10x that number who are on the edge of experiencing homelessness. And think about that relative to elected leadership and who's representing and what decisions they're making. So become engaged. And, I'm not saying everyone has to become a housing policy expert, but think about what people are saying when elected officials and campaigns and things, what are they actually doing? As I said, Governor Shapiro has been a tremendous advocate for affordable housing. I have, the current county commissioners, and Representative Dean, and those things make a difference. I mean, millions of dollars in investment. Those are real, tangible investments that better people's, lives. So, are we going to continue to invest as a society in the most vulnerable populations, or are we going to pull back and, and not make those investments? And where would that lead us if we, if we cut half of our budget or the HUD budget or other budgets that support vulnerable populations? Where's that going to leave us as a society? So it's it's a tremendous. I think as a country, we're the richest country in the history of civilization, literally. And we have hundreds of thousands of people living on the street. It's just astounding, frankly. So, I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to continue to sort of do this work and, contribute in a small way. But, the general public can have an influence on this by supporting elected officials that support affordable housing. And that's not a partisan comment. There's lots of folks on both sides of the aisle that support these types of programs. So I would just ask the general public to sort of becoming engaged and pay attention to these kind of issues.
I am just grateful to God that I have the opportunity to serve. I grew up in South Philadelphia, and my mother and father were separated. We rented a home, and the landlord died, and the city said either you have to buy the house or you have to move. And at that point, I was in the 11th grade. I quit school and never thought in my wildest imagination that God would give me an opportunity to help somebody else, particularly do housing, because I know that if we had to move, I don't know where we would have went. And there was no man in the house. It was my mother and grandmother. And so we were able to stay there, and my mother ultimately purchased a home. But the fact that I look back now and see that It's only by the providence of God to have an opportunity to serve families, because you already said it, by the grace of God, there go I. I could have been in that same situation, not having a place to stay, growing up. And so again, I thank you. It may be repetitious, but thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your heart. And I thank God for Jerry Nugent and the entire board for their commitment to seek to make a difference. And there are individuals, as you indicated, the county commissioners, and still Governor Shapiro still has a heart to help people. And collectively together we can get this done. We can't do it by ourselves, but we need everybody to be supportive in one way or another. And any of us could find ourselves in that same situation, particularly now with the economy we're dealing with and people who are losing their jobs and things of that nature. So God's given us opportunity to give back and to help somebody else, whether it's on the board or whether or not it's helping somebody in our community, or bringing food to someone through the pantries, or doing other things that would benefit helping humanity. So again, thank you so much. It's my prayer this evening you have been blessed as we heard the heart of Joel, who leads the Housing Authority with such commitment and passion, 18 years, and he's still thriving, still seeking to make a difference, and the challenges we have. But we can handle those challenges when we put our minds and hearts together. So again, thank you so much for being part of this wonderful evening known as A Word from the Pastor's Heart. Invite somebody every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock when we'll have different guests come and share from their perspective, from their view, from their heart, how God is using them. Thank you once again. God bless you. Have a great evening. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 7 p.m.
Love God and serve His people. It's what we're called to do. Love God and serve His people. Wonderful opportunities awaiting you. Do you know the way to heaven? Yes, you really need to know. Just count your blessings, brother. Here's the way.